I'd like to welcome everyone to the February 13th, 2025 meeting of the Burlington Conservation Commission. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I saw Rob doing the pledge from the Conway, so that counts. That counts. I saw you doing the pledge.
Well, he was in the hallway. He has to do it again now.
In front of everyone.
All right, so this meeting, a hearing of the Conservation Commission is held in person. Members of the public are welcome to attend an in-person meeting. Please note, we are providing attendance for opportunity for remote attendance, and it's as a courtesy to the public. The meeting will not be suspended or terminated if technical problems interrupt the virtual broadcast, unless otherwise required by law. Members with particular interest in a specific item are encouraged to attend in person versus virtual. Okay, we're gonna, I'll go through the roll call, and then we'll launch into item number 4, because they're time limited. Commissioner Bill Boyven?
Here.
Commissioner Rob Sheehan? Commissioner Sarah Walensky?
Here.
For the record, Chair Larry Cohen is here. Commissioner Kent Moffitt, not here. Commissioner Ed LaTurco, not here. And Commissioner Indra Deb, not here. All right, so we're going to move down to item discussion. We have an informal discussion, proposed sport field redevelopment for the Marshall Simons Middle School. I understand you folks are time limited and have to get out of here by 6:55. Is that?
Sir, and thank you for seeing us.
All right.
Sir. And allowing us the time.
All right, so we'll try to hit high-level issues for 15 or so minutes on your time and about 10 minutes on our time.
That'd be great. Mr. Cohen, Jeremy Brooks, the chairperson of the Marshall Simons Field Committee, school committee member. I have with me Megan Wojcik, Mr. Kuna, Hip, and Arson from Nezra Engineering. First of all, I'd like to thank you all for being gracious and taking us out of order for our double book schedule. And we can just jump right in once Arson's ready for the papers.
Once I sort out this mess, I apologize.
You know, from our informal discussion previously, I think everyone knows the intent to get 2 turf fields on Lower Brushfield, and then some lighting, seating, and accessibility, most notably and most importantly for this project, down from the school onto the field. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you all very much. We appreciate your time. The plans are actually advancing a little more rapidly than we anticipated, so we're going to be coming in with more of a formal discussion soon, but we wanted to present to you the proposed layout of the infield synthetic turf field. It's essentially located within the limits of, it is located within the existing limits of the grass field. We have done our best to keep it as small as possible while still meeting the governing body regulations for widths and dimensions for high school use for lacrosse, field hockey, and all the sports. While maintaining as much space and buffer as possible. And we're also proposing some terrace seating. And we noticed there was no ADA accessible route and parking associated with the grass field, so we've proposed 3 ADA spaces with a more formalized, compliant walkway ramp down to the fields. There's a standard walkway that's there now. We're proposed to upgrade that, but in addition, provide the accessible routes, a perimeter walkway, some ball safety netting, and really that's the extent of renovations. There is a small protrusion of wetlands that has developed based on the slope of the hill and the grass field pitching to this corner. We believe it was man-made when the fields were created. However, it does have hydric soils and it's established as a potential wetland, so we're proposing utilizing 1,400 square feet of that and proposing replication of up to 5,000 square feet. We're happy to orient it in any location you see fit that may be more beneficial to the resources than where we have it shown, but for now we have it shown in this location here, the fields. Other than that, we have some athletic lighting and some safety fencing and emergency access to the site. So if there's any specific questions, anything else you'd like to hear about it, I'm happy to discuss it.
Well, what I'd like to do is have the commission leave you with any questions or concerns, so you can look at your materials and say, does it address it or not address it? Obviously, we haven't had a chance to look at them, so you can do that assessment based on what we say. Sure. All right, so Eileen, do you have any comments at this point?
I will just point out to everybody that, as they described, there is a wetland in the, I guess that's, well, we'll just say top right, I guess that's east,
Northeast.
right? Northeast, no, it's not, I don't think it's, never mind.
Yeah,
Top right corner, which they, part of which they are proposing to fill. There's also a stream along the left-hand side of Plan View, which is a stream, it is considered a stream under the Burlington bylaw. It is not a stream with riverfront under the Wetlands Protection Act. So it's covered under the bylaw.
The other side has riverfront, correct?
The other side,
With
The north
state-
side is just standard wetlands, this side here, and this side is a intermittent stream, however your bylaw
Yeah.
does
it has a
extend.
200-foot riverfront under our bylaw.
Right, that's what I was
just
asking.
clarified.
Okay.
Yes, it does, yes, it is. Sorry if that wasn't clear.
Okay.
So, that's just the background of, those are the resources. They're actually proposing to put the field partially into the wetland and very close to, but I don't have exact measurements because I haven't measured yet from the stream, maybe 20 or 30 feet or something. Do you have a distance?
I do have a 20-foot buffer shown,
Yeah,
to the dashed line out here, but I can
Okay.
give exact dimensions on the next iteration of plans. And just to note that wetland is currently also being used as part of the fields. It is grass.
So I have a couple of questions that you guys probably have the same questions. I'm wondering whether you augured in the field as well to see how much of the field itself is or is not wetland? Like, did you confirm that there's no wetland in the field, or is it possible that there's wetland? It's okay, you don't have to answer it just
We
right now.
did do augering, yes.
And I definitely have concerns and want to know more about, maybe for the next meeting, the drainage, what it is you're proposing to do, how you're proposing to capture the water and clean it, because there's a big difference between artificial turf and the natural, more natural grass that's out there.
Mhm.
Okay, so do you want to, in the interest of moving things along, I'm happy to move it, pass it over to you guys.
Okay, I'd like to go, why don't we start with Rob? Rob, do you have anything at this point? We can go back to you if you'd like.
Yeah, so I guess this would be a notice of intent, an NOI. And then I guess occasionally for NOIs, we have like alternative analysis as well. So I was wondering if that would.
They had some words in there, I looked at the materials briefly, they did have some words in there regarding alternatives. But is this a redevelopment, or is this
Did
considered,
this go to you? Because I didn't send it out to you guys yet.
I saw the materials, there was a link, there was a Google
Oh,
Drive link.
sorry.
I may
Who
have,
did you send it to?
I may have copied the working group that was in the email
Oh, sorry, it may have just
discussions.
gone to you,
My
Larry.
apologies.
Sorry.
Really?
I deliberately hadn't sent it
Oh, I
out to
feel
you
so
guys yet.
privileged.
Because we have this meeting tonight, it is for the next meeting. Okay.
All right, but the point, that begs the question, is this considered a redevelopment project, in other words, or is it considered a new development?
This, I think, would be 58-4A, redevelopment, but not degraded. Sorry,
Correct.
I may have the A and B wrong, but
Yes.
redevelopment of non-degraded.
This is redevelopment. Is that what you're saying?
Did I say that the right way?
I believe there's a note that says partial redevelopment, so I would say it's a partial
Because if it's
redevelopment.
redevelopment, I'm not sure, do we need an alternatives analysis anyway?
Redevelopment, as in Part B, it assumes that there's degraded area on site, which there is not. This is redevelopment as in, this is not considered redevelopment under that definition.
Okay, so alternatives analysis would be
Yes.
required, is what you're saying.
Part of the working group process, what we did was propose multiple layout alternatives. You know, we had a wider field that provide more safety
Right.
spacing, a different orientation. So we have gone through
And the
multiple
dimensions are fixed
iterations.
because of, for using it in high school, there's a certain dimension you need.
There's a governing body that regulates it. We're pinned by the resources on 3 sides, and we have the hill
Yeah.
on another side and an existing
Okay,
track.
let's go, mind if I go to the next person? Okay, Kent, anything?
Nothing at this point. I mean, I did
Okay.
it the sub.
That's all right, we can go back as things develop. This is, we only have a very brief amount of time here. Bill?
My biggest concern on this is drainage and treatment of the water coming off the field. I don't know if you got a chance to watch the webinar that we watched yesterday. I think a link was sent to you, and it was specifically about putting artificial turf in and near wetlands. And they had a laundry list of toxic things that come off of them. They had, the forever chemicals, they had carcinogens, they had debris from the rubber fill. Rubber fill was recommended not to be used, and something else was recommended to be used. So that was a very technical, I gotta watch it again to really understand it. It was somewhat overwhelming, there was so much information. But it was specifically on this topic, and it just happened to be timely, because we were gonna be talking about this tonight. So I think we should all review that for the next meeting, to make sure that we are handling the runoff from this and treating it, to make sure that that doesn't get into the resource areas. That'll be the big thing for me. And then, of course, proper replication of the wetland that is being filled. Those are my two big points.
I will say one thing, but the last, sorry not to, but I saw some, like, we, the sub, like Jeremy, you guys were at the last one. I think that's, like, if you go to Billerica, that's one of the things, like, you had mentioned Arlington, like, the turf, like, there's the concern about, like, whatever material you use. Like, I don't want to take my son to events, like, get back in the car, and it's like all over your feet. So it's like, if that's material that's gonna be going down here, like, that's, like you said, if there's not proper drain, I don't, like, how's that gonna be handled, if all that runoff? And I think the other concern was, to your point about, like, you're going into an area that there's really, like, drainage is just kind of like, you're going from, like, nothing there. I mean, there's there, but it's grass, like, it's natural, to now complete 360. So I think that's, like you said, the drainage is one of the big, and then the other part is, like, even the one above, because you're dealing with now going from an existing, what's gonna stay there, you're gonna go to new, so, like, how those gonna, like, kind of connect to each other, I think is another concern I have as far as, like, the drainage from the other one going into like, this is gonna be all redeveloped, but then you're doing the other one that's kind of a phase 2. But how is that could be 2 years or 3 years before that other project's done.
Just a clarifying question, Commissioner Muffett. So you're asking about the existing brush field when it gets renovated, is what we're talking about, and then in conjunction with this project?
No, it's more just like, I mean, you're gonna do this project, like to Bill's point about you got runoff, you got the
Yep.
material and all that, but, it's, the existing one is gonna be, as it is, but what, is there gonna be any impact from that? Because they're not being done at the same time, and I understand that that was kind of the decision that was made.
Yep.
But basically, now you're going into something that's like brand new.
Do you mean the field that's on the?
Yeah,
left,
the
lower
main
part?
field.
I understand the question now. I was just making sure we're clarifying that we're talking
I just, like I said,
upper brush field, lower brush field, and that. I just wanted to make sure.
No,
I
it's just
understand
more
you
because
correctly.
you're dealing with, like, because they're being done at 2 different points, so I think it's like you're gonna update the back part, and then the, the front part's gonna be, at some point, but I just, I would like to know if there's gonna be any impact, from the upper.
Tying the sites together is what you're asking
Yeah,
about?
right now, the drainage.
Yeah, sorry.
Right now, the drainage for both is tied together.
Correct.
You're connecting the new field to the existing drainage of the old existing field. And if you're then gonna change the existing field, you wanna make sure that you've planned ahead and don't have to tear up what you just did to now handle 2 fields when you're
Yeah,
starting.
100%.
So we'll be sure to address that. I'm a civil engineer with my specialty in hydrology. Drainage analysis is what we do. And I have plenty of data and documents to supply, in addition to the report we have completed. But we feel strongly that this is going to be a great improvement over existing conditions.
All right, Sarah?
I would just echo some of the things I've already heard, that it was an incredibly good seminar on turf fields. I learned a lot from listening in, especially that turf fields can be construed as impervious surface, which is a big change for the area. I would like to know more about the clearance between the edge of the turf and that stream there. It seems like it's gonna be incredibly tight. I'd like to know more about the infill crumb that is actually going to be used, because the tire crumb rubber has a whole bunch of awful chemicals it gives off. One example was something quinone. I do not remember the original letters.
6
but-
PDD quinone.
Yes, one drop in 20 Olympic swimming pools is toxic to aquatic wildlife. That was just shocking, and that comes off this crumb rubber. So we got to be careful about what we're doing here. If it's bad for wildlife, what's it doing to kids is another question I have. I know there are less toxic variants, but I'd really like to hear more about that, because these kids, you know, they fall on the field, it gets ground into abrasions. When my kids come home from playing on crumb rubber, it is all over the bathroom when they take a shower. It's all in their clothes. A lot of questions about how safe that is. A grass field, I know, is really old-fashioned and not very today, but it sure would be safer in some ways. And also a lot cooler. That's another issue I have, is the heat that's given off by these things, like 150 degrees right down near the blade level on a very hot day. So I would love to see an alternatives analysis if possible. Like, why would a grass field be a bad idea? I know there's mowing, I know there's pesticides, that's not great, but I'd like to hear more about that.
So the reason we see more and more synthetic turf fields taking over natural grass is because the natural grass is not sustainable for the amount of use we have. Unfortunately, it has a limited amount of use, and if you have multiple sports, the turf doesn't hold up, and then it becomes unsafe and unplayable. And what having the right amount of turf does is you're able to take the use off of natural grass, some of the natural grass fields. Of course, you should keep them and have plenty of natural grass fields, but in doing so, now you have freed up some of the play time to maintain and keep better, safer natural grass fields. You know, if space was abundant and maintenance and funding was not an issue, you know, I think natural grass would be amazing to have everywhere. It's just unfortunately not sustainable. In terms of the video, I have not yet watched it, but I do caution that there are oftentimes competing products and viewpoints, and they tailor their own write-up towards what they feel should be optimum or more accepted. However, the EPA has done an extensive study, which it released over 2 volumes over the last few years, that is very comprehensive, and it gets down to the issue of crumb rubber, why it became a concern, what their analysis and findings find. And many of these tires are made with chemicals. However, they're not what you call a free chemical. They do not leave the actual tire rubber itself unless it's in some kind of extreme heated condition where it's in a furnace. But there is all that data, which I'm happy to provide and discuss in the next meeting.
Commissioner Walensky, excuse me, just a clarifying question here was, were you talking about the east edge of the field, so the top of that graphic, and then the, I guess it would be west-northwest, so the left side, or is it both sides for the clearance, or is it all clearances
Well,
all the way around?
I see that, I mean, if we're going by that diagram there, it's like
Sure.
coming up the left-hand side and then going across the top of the field.
Okay.
I know that's not very clear.
I just want to make sure when we bring our stuff with you next
That's
time,
what
we're
I'm
addressing
seeing.
your concerns. Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And if that rubber crumb is so motile that everybody's carrying it home in vast amounts, it clearly is going to end up in the stream, if you're close to the stream. You know, and we saw pictures on that thing yesterday of a black berm around the field from, you know, when the snow melted or whatever, there's just so much of it left behind. So it is going to end up in the stream if you're that close to the stream, so it's a concern for us.
All right, so I'd like to list a few things, then I guess we'll be out of time, apparently.
Can Lucy just ask a question?
I was just gonna ask, and say, the field, the upper field that you have, that's regular grass.
No, that's turf as well.
Okay,
This one's turf, this one's right now grass,
gotcha, never mind then.
Okay.
with crumb rubber.
All right, the first thing is that what I got out of looking at that webinar and so forth is that the crumb rubber can have PFAS in it, okay, which is a problem, okay? And either there's data that supports that it doesn't have PFAS, or there's data that supports that we should use an alternative material, and perhaps an alternative material is the solution to that issue. That's the first thing. The second thing is that some of the underlayment, the crumb rubber and so forth and the stuff carries with it the potential for pollutants. If it's going into like a surface drain, and then the surface drain then that rains and it snows, just washes it away, you almost need some kind of a thing that will like pre-filter out any, if the crumbs come off the side, okay, you almost need, if you have a drain, I don't know what you have, but if you have a drain, you almost need some kind of, almost like a dip or something that lets the stuff drop out, and then the water goes into the drain, and it doesn't have that crumb stuff in it.
Like a rain guard.
It's sort of like, so I don't know, you could explain that, you don't have to answer that now. I mean, maybe you've thought of that or whatever, but that's fine.
Great input, yeah, happy to address it either now
Yeah,
or
I mean-
at the
I
next
mean-
meeting.
What I just described was my own vision of how it might work, but I don't know, so. The other is, I'd be interested in, is this field, the revised field, how much in any of the areas closer than the existing field already is? Okay? I'd like to know how much area that is.
Yep.
Okay?
It's only this corner, and it's about 2 feet closer. The rest are actually going quite a bit away. There's a fence line shown here. We're going approximately at least 10, in places 20 feet further away. And
Than the existing field.
correct.
All right, well, you can go into that in more detail. We don't have, I mean, you're limited in words because of the time you have.
Sure.
But that helps with the performance standards that we have to look at. Let's see. One of the things that I got out of looking at that material yesterday is that the drainage underneath can be designed to cool the water before it is discharged. I don't know how they do that. I don't know if that's how that's possible, but they seem to indicate that that was possible. So.
The water does not come out hot.
What?
The temperature will rise from the surface of the synthetic turf and the infill, but as the water rainfall flows through, it's filtered through the synthetic grass blades, a mixture of sand and rubber component. Then there's a fabric backing with holes in it that it filters through. Then what's called a choker layer or surface layer, which is fine.
Well, you can, I mean, obviously,
Sand.
if you can have some retention, then it's going to be cooler anyway.
Right, and it's going through.
So
stone
if that's
and
happening,
into
that's
a
fine,
stone
but
base
I
layer.
think we ought to just discuss it, in a little more
Happy to.
depth. Okay, I think that is it. I talked about the drainage, I talked about the PFAS for the materials, cooling of it, and that's it. That's it. That's all I have.
So alternatives to the infill as well, have they looked at that, or can you?
We had a meeting about that, and we discussed it. There's a great increase in cost associated with the alternative infill, but based on the EPA results, EPA study, there was nothing of concern based on the crumb rubber. So it's more of a preference, as far as I can tell, but again, I can share that data.
Yeah.
So if I can speak to that, we did have almost an entire meeting about it. We tabled the issue to move it and provide us additional info on the fill, and we had actually asked for that because we knew this concern was coming, and the information we provided led us to believe that this was a proper infill, and it's an infill material we've used in the town. to this
Well,
point.
it's a question of what contaminant you're looking for. It may be that the
Sure.
contaminants you're looking for, but that 6-PDD quinone is something that's so highly toxic, it seemed like they just identified it. So we have to sort of sort that out. I don't know how.
Yeah, and that was definitely not in our cross-check 100%. I can tell you that right now. I definitely did not look for that. But we can certainly address that, and that's kind of the reason we wanted to get and have this informal discussion, is to get that punch list together, to have a next productive meeting next time so we can address your issues and be a little more pointed and sharpen our pencils to what you guys need to hear.
So according to the clock, I'm supposed to kick you out now? Is that the idea?
I have to leave, and Mr. Wojcik has to leave. These folks can stay. We double booked because of the high school building committee. So as you all know from last night, there's a lot of questions to be answered, and we really need to do so. So I apologize for rushing this first meeting. I thank you again for your graciousness, taking us out of order and then giving us this time. I really do appreciate it.
You're entirely welcome. So I think what we ought to do is end the informal discussion here, because you have submitted materials. You probably want to take a second look at what you submitted relative to what was said here, and then obviously you'll revise as needed. I mean,
Yep.
obviously.
Is there any input, I'm sorry, about the potential replication area? We heard that maybe another area may be more appropriate. For next meeting, I could make that revision if that's a,
Well, I know that I have concerns about the replication area being so close to the field itself. And if you're considering, if you're showing us the replication area being so close, we would need to see that there's going to be no runoff of all the stuff we were talking about into the brand-new wetland, because we administer the Wetlands Protection Act, so we're all about protecting those wetlands and all of their functions as well.
Well, Eileen, also, to piggyback on what you just said,
Yep.
I think we also would like to hear some kind of, it's a playing field, and, I don't know how much attention it's going to get to maintaining, but I think the restoration area should have some plan to protect it in perpetuity, I would think. Otherwise, it's just going to get destroyed. All right, so there needs to be a plan, something that is recognized by whoever is to take care of it, that somehow it's protected and monitored.
Yeah, and that's why we had kind of opted the replication area Arson identified is actually behind a fence, behind safety netting, because again, from lived experience with Fox Hill, Mr. Boyven, I took your advice, hey, we need to have nets to keep balls out, keep people out, stuff like that. So we were trying to be very mindful of that as we looked at these things. So it's definitely on our radar, and again, we can sharpen our pencils to get there.
Are there any flood zone concerns here, or are we above the?
Sorry, Eddie, what?
Any flood zone concerns
I do not
here?
believe this is a flood zone.
Okay.
no?
All right, so, listen, thank you very much for coming and talking to us, and I guess we'll see you at the next time you're scheduled.
Thank you very much.
All right,
Now that I know the TV's here, next time I won't struggle with the big
Oh.
board.
there you go. Okay.
Sorry, what?
All right, so we're going to have to take a step back in our agenda. We have public comment. Is there anyone here online or in the room that wants to talk about something not on the agenda? No, okay. We have,
Sadie's online.
okay, oh, Sadie, you're online apparently.
Yes,
All right, I just noticed you. We should make note that I think when we did the roll call, Ken Moffett is now here for the record. He came in right afterwards. And our Associate Commissioner, Sadie Backstrom, she is also here, but she is online. Okay? I guess we're all set. Okay, next we have approval of minutes. We have the minutes for, let's see, of January 23rd is what we have.
We got all of them.
We have all of them ready?
I should have sent all of them out.
December 12th, January 9th, January 25th.
Yep.
All right. Are we in a position to approve minutes of December 12th? Any objection? Could I have a motion to approve minutes of December 12th?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? That's 1, 2, 3, 5, 0, 0. Minutes of January 9th, 2025. Motion to approve.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor? 5, 0, 0. Minutes of January 23rd. Yeah. Motion to approve.
So moved.
Second. All in favor? 4, 0, 1. I was not present. Okay. All right. Next, we have, skip down to item 5. We have a request for partial certificate of compliance. This is 12 Sarah Street, made by Rakesh Goel, DEP file number 122-704. Someone here to present or talk about it?
Good evening, this is Dan Dragani from Dragani Engineering Group. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay, excellent, great. So yes, we are here tonight to request a partial certificate of compliance for 12 Sarah Street. The house has been fully constructed, the drainage systems have been installed and are functioning. Sod has been installed on the project site. We have submitted a draft as-built for the site civil work. The wetland scientist, Nor's Environmental, has been out to the site, and they've produced a punch list for the buffer zone area, which we also included in our submittal to the community. So there is some work still planned for the spring to do some cleanup back there and complete the plantings. And I guess just to touch base on a couple of minor project changes that took place throughout the project. The fence that was installed is a taller fence than what we had in the application. My client had a requirement from a building code perspective to have a fence that's of a significant height that has gates that can lock for building code compliance. There is a gate that accesses to the buffer zone, and we do have an intent to permanently lock that if that is of, interest to the Conservation Commission. We would like to, however, keep that gate open for the work we have planned in the spring, and then the goal would be to lock that gate permanently. And I guess with that said, that's pretty much it. Just looking for a partial certificate of compliance here.
Okay. Eileen, would you like to give us any comments for us to consider?
I would. So I agree with Dan that as far as we can tell, the house and stormwater system was built as designed. He has stamped the as-built plan, so we know that it was. The pool went in the correct position. As he explained, the fence, I had verbally said the fence could be sort of straightened and moved in between the, I guess, 10 and 30 feet or something lines, and which they did. And they put in a taller fence. However, having said all that, I am not, I'm not enamored of the idea of giving a partial COC. This is a single-family lot, so we just don't typically do that. Part of the whole project was restoration of the wetland, following on from cutting by the applicant. And that is, to my mind, part and parcel of this project. This isn't a phased project, and it will really only take a few months to get it to be compliant. If they just wait till the spring, I think it would be better. I mean, I would leave it up to you, obviously, but my opinion is that I would be reluctant to issue a partial at this time.
Okay.
What's the motivation for requesting a partial at this time? Is there some occupancy permit needed? Can you address that, sir?
Dan or Rakesh?
Yes, the house currently has an occupancy permit, and I can let my client, if they want to jump in on just a rationale behind the partial here. I don't know, Rakesh, if you have audio.
Yeah, I have audio. I think so if they can hear me now.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes, we got you here, yep.
Okay. Eileen, as far as I did plantation in the back as well, but unfortunately with the deer grazing, though there is a 4-foot fence in the back, metal fence, there has been some deer grazing and everything. So I want the town to issue me a partial permit compliance. But I would like the town to have my bond kept for now until I complete the other work. But as far as I'm concerned, I did plant 46 plants in there. So I would request for a partial compliance. That's why I would come back in spring and do whatever is required.
Well, I think the question
And
was why.
I have 3 years to plant.
Okay. All right, I'm going to go around and just see what people think, okay?
That answered Bill's question.
What?
I'm not sure that answered Bill's question.
No, but,
Well, and didn't, that he has an occupancy permit already, so that's not why it's pending, so that, then your point stands well. I mean, there's no need to rush it.
okay, before you comment, I'd like to say something to the commission, and that is that the partial certificate has been used where there is a subdivision, and there's a house, and so forth, and then 2 out of 5 houses are completely complete, and then you get the partial certificate to those houses. We have never, as far as I know, issued a partial certificate of completion to a single-family house. Okay, number one, I have a problem with it for two reasons. The first is it sets up a consistency problem. Okay, we've never done it, so you're establishing a new thing, and that it's going to open it up, that other people are going to say, well, I would like. But when you open up a single-family house to a partial certificate, you're likely to see, I'm concerned you're going to see all kinds of combinations of this part of the project is done and this part is not done. And I think it's a very, for consistency's sake, it's a very bad precedent to set unless you want to make a major change in how partial certificates are viewed. All right, so I'd like, when you're making your comments, please feel free to consider that as well. All right, so Kent?
Yeah, I would agree with that. That's both your and Eileen's point are valid. I mean, if it's, you know, just, you want to set you open the door, kind of sets up not a good precedence to, that's not your standard, and you'd said that there is one, but if that's not what the standard is, I think I would agree with that. I would be in favor of issuing a partial.
All right, Rob?
So there's like, is there still an enforcement? Like, or the plantings are part of an enforcement that the plantings haven't happened yet?
I don't
or
think we
has that
actually,
been
I'll double check the files, but we didn't issue an enforcement order. It ended up being like a friendly enforcement. There was a violation,
Yeah.
and we all agreed that he would restore. So it's not that we have to lift an enforcement, but restoration is absolutely 100% part of restoring, of addressing that violation, yes.
Okay.
You're right, so, I mean, maybe if it was something more straightforward, it wouldn't be a big deal, but I am concerned about the fact that it's a restoration as well.
Sarah?
It doesn't seem to match the use case you described of like, there's 2 houses that are done and there's 3 houses that are not done, so you issue a partial. This is either done or not done. It looks like not done, so I don't see why we would issue a partial. It doesn't make any sense.
Bill?
I'm against issuing a partial, especially since there's already an occupancy permit. I don't see the urgency, and you can still do the work in the spring to complete it. I would like to take a moment to congratulate the abutters and the amount of effort they put in to make sure this project was done correctly, that it was done by the rules, that it was done to as much as your satisfaction as possible. I think you were a real force in making sure that this was done to the level it has been done, so I commend you for that. And to the builder also, who did listen to as much of that as possible and made some serious modifications in order to comply with the forces in all directions. So I just wanted to say that.
And Eileen, regarding, I just want to clarify something before I say anything else. What is left to be done is what?
What is left to be done is removing some debris that just wasn't even cleaned up in the yard.
Yeah, okay.
Probably replacing some of the plants, and then protecting the ones that are in there, like deer proofing some of the ones that are in there, because it looks like they've been nibbled on.
And how about soil stabilization?
Yeah, bare ground soil stabilization, yes.
So that's needed. Okay, are all the plantings in?
He put in a lot of plantings. In fact, he put in extra plantings. He was not able to get the exact size plantings we had all agreed to. So
Right.
he put in more smaller ones, which I was very happy with. That seemed like I mean, not every plant is going to take, so I'd rather have plenty of small plants than fewer.
And how about wetlands replication? These are the plants you're talking about?
Those are the plants, yeah, restoration rather than replication.
Okay, well, I would just like to also say, in addition to wanting the house to come out right, which we rely on the engineer. Normally, we're not out there supervising the technical details of that. That's the province of the professional licensed engineer. But one of the things we are concerned with, and we are charged with, our main job is the restoration and that the replication area is well on its way. Now, in some cases, it is actually recommended that you don't even issue a certificate of compliance until 2 growing seasons. We have been very lenient, okay, and with that, and we have issued the certificate of compliance, and then we've held the bond when it looks like things are well underway. okay? We haven't made people wait the full 2 years. However, to me, making sure that the wetlands is on its way and the areas are cleaned up and everything is stabilized is kind of central and core to our mission, is the way I see it. So I am not in favor of granting a partial and establishing a new precedence for giving partials on single-family houses. I don't think we should be doing that. It's going to cause a lot of problems in going forward. All right, so do we need a vote one way or the other, or we just don't take a vote?
I think, just to be on the safe side, let's take a vote, because I haven't dealt with it.
Do you mind if I just ask a quick question first? Sorry. I understand the, concerns of the commission, completely respect that 100%. My client didn't want to mention it in public meeting, but he just messaged me to mention it. They do have a closing plan. He wasn't planning on selling the home, but didn't put it on the market, but he did get an offer on the house. And so I was wondering if the commission would be open to potentially, if it would be possible before that closing, which I believe is next Friday, I believe, if my client would be able to go into that wetland buffer zone, clean up the, debris, stabilize the land. They did install more plants that were planned on the site plan. I personally can't speak to that, but NORS Environmental did write that in their report. I personally don't know what I'm looking at when I'm looking at these plants, to be brutally honest with you. But I just wanted to mention that and see if that's something the commission would be open to. Again, completely understand where you're coming from. Thank you very much for all your considerations on this project.
All right, thank you.
But I have a question.
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to mention something as well. As far as I tried to complete the whole project, there is just one small, 2x2 piece of debris which is there, which got overlooked in a corner, and that's about the debris we have in that place. It's 2x2. It's like no more than 20 minutes. And I did try to stabilize everything. I did even put in 1 pound of wetland seed in the whole place, apart from the plantation.
Okay, thank you for those comments. Mr. Hickey, would you like to come up, state your name for the record, and then if you would like to say something, I think you have earned a few minutes to say something.
Good evening, everybody. I apologize, I'm getting over a cold, so I'm going to sound a little raspy. Happy New Year. I came tonight because I'm objecting to the partial certification of compliance. And from what I'm hearing from the board, it sounds like you're probably supporting that for the right reasons. And I think that the town does count on groups like the Conservation Commission to be consistent and fair to the process and do the right thing. And I don't want to go down a bad road again that I did last spring, but to me, it's a unique situation where we had trees taken out of wetlands at 14 Sarah Street, where Mr. Gall lives presently, trees taken out illegally on 12 Sarah Street, the house he's purchased. The stormwater permit application is signed off that the abutters, which includes me, were given notification from Mr. Gall. That never happened, and it was signed off on. You, as chair, put a work stop order this summer on the property, and Mr. Gall continued to work on a Sunday and on Patriots' Day, which is a holiday. Another violation of the law. I had to step in there. We're all aware of the pool situation and how that had to be moved in compliance with the law. So this man is a rule breaker. And I have no idea why he would even think, or a commission would entertain, a partial certification of compliance with his track record. I find it quite insulting. I looked at the bylaws, under Conservation Commission bylaws for enforcement and for the certificate of compliance. One of the questions I have for the commission is, I was here last spring when Mr. Gall was here with somebody, I don't know who the person was, about putting in the trees to mitigate, to remediate. And we had discussions about willows and this and that, and 7 of them should be 8 feet high and so on and so forth. The trees were taken down illegally in October of 2023. I notified Eileen Coleman in October of 2023. We sat here in April of 2024 with a plan to put in 30-plus trees, shrubs, different sizes. It's going to be 1 year this April. Nothing's in. I have yet to see, and I've been out in the backyard, I have yet to see any shrubs of any size, any planting. So I don't know what's being discussed here that things have been put in, because it's nothing. It's bare. I look at your enforcement section 16, which I would assume you're aware of your own bylaws, and you had the purview as a Conservation Commission as one of your options. Excuse me. You have multiple options you can take for enforcement, civil and legal action, fines per day, $300 per day, which I would assume maybe per tree. You also could have put a work stoppage on the property under 16K until all the vegetation was replaced. And I'm trying to figure out from last April through the summer, through the fall, when I saw workers on that house for a year, they're still there, they're just here today, 3 trucks. Why didn't the commission say, work stoppage, those 30 trees, you violated 14 Sarah Street that got beyond me, I wasn't aware of it, 12 Sarah Street. Why weren't those trees put in before anything continued on? You had the purview to do that.
All right, first, thank you for your comments. I am not going to go back and relitigate what we did or what we didn't do and justify what we did and what we didn't do. We're not at that point in the process. The point we're in at the process is looking at a partial certificate, and we're going to stay focused on why we're here.
So if we stay focused, I appreciate that, Mr. Cohen. So if we stay focused, I heard Ms. Cole, somebody said something about 2 years, and there is an option of a timetable, but he's been given 2 years to put these trees in, I hope?
No, 2 years for them to survive 2 years. They're planted, and this is to survive 2 years.
So the commission does request, there's a written request that one of the options is a timetable for full restitution of the violation and withholding, so on and so forth, for the trees to be replanted. So I would assume there must be a timetable then for them to go in, because I think Ms. Coleman just said something like.
They get 2 years for that. They must survive according to our regulations.
Right.
Our order of conditions, 2 years from the point at which they're planted.
Right, but when you would ask the question, is there like a set plan for these trees to go in?
Trees are in. The shrubs and trees are in. They're all quite small.
What happened to the 7 trees that were going to be 8 feet?
Well, I don't think we ever said anything about.
We most certainly did, if you go.
8 feet, but that.
We most certainly did.
We talked about getting a smaller number of larger trees, and my understanding was that in the fall, they could not get them. That was what I remember.
Right.
If you go back out, which I'm assuming you will before the compliance is met, you can't, if there's anything there, there's seeds.
We do a site visit when it's up for a full certificate of compliance.
Okay.
We will walk around the site, and we will look at the number of plants, we'll look at the number of plants that were supposed to have been planted, the number of plants that are there.
Okay, because the plant, if there are plants, they would have to be microscopic, and that to me is a serious problem. If there's, I was assuming and I'm going to go back to the video from April, they were supposed to be shrubs and trees.
Right.
You were at the meeting as well.
We normally do not count microscopic.
Okay, well then, because there's nothing there.
I'm just being a.
I know, there's nothing there. So I'm assuming the time, it sounds like hopefully it'll be this spring, but I would agree, there should be no partial certificate.
There would be a site visit, we would look at that stuff.
Yeah,
And
there's nothing
we'd have
there.
a plan with us.
There is, Mr. Costa will agree, there is nothing on that property. If it is, it's a seedling.
All right,
My
we'll
last,
take a look.
It's exactly a seedling. That's what it is.
then that's a serious problem. You know why that's a serious problem is 14 Sarah Street, thanks, Mr. Gold, the water's been pushed down to 12. Now with 12, you have seedlings that will all be long dead before anything takes effect, pushes down to his property and others that have 3 pumps in them. All that water, we couldn't hook up to the street. You did the most highly engineered plan, as you said, you've ever seen to push it all back out there. And those things, if they're seedlings, as you'll see when you go out, it'll be 50 years before anything is like growing to a point that can absorb water.
To a greater or lesser degree, that is a consistent problem with replanting. It just is. okay? People take down big trees, they're unauthorized, they're supposed to not take them down, they take them down anyway,
Right.
okay? And then, they beg forgiveness, and then we have to replant, and the replanting doesn't match
Right.
anywhere near what's going on.
But I would ask.
Very unfortunate.
I would ask the commission to go back to the April of 2024 meeting where it was discussed there would be X amount of trees that were going to be 2 to 3 feet high.
We will look at what.
And 7
what-
trees
we'll look
were
at
going
the
to be 8
accepted.
feet.
Yes, we will look at the accepted plan is the way we would do it.
My last comment is on the certificate of compliance. And I know in the certificate of compliance, the engineer, that's Mr. Dragani, and by the way, Mr. Dragani, thank you. He knew that I was, this was very difficult for me for a number of reasons, and he was always willing to take my questions. So I do appreciate that, Mr. Dragani. But as the architect with the stamped plans, it says, the plans approved in the permit shall accompany a request for the certificate of compliance. They're asking for a partial. 2 dated sets of photographs depicting the property before and after the work completed shall be included in the engineer's certification. I'm assuming if everything's done, you have all the pictures. But I do want to submit these pictures to you and speak to this before I leave.
Great, thanks.
Are these all the same?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can show. And then this one will give you, if you look at the bottom right, you'll see that very pipe coming out of the stone wall.
Yep.
So the stone wall aesthetically is a beautiful, Mr. Bonato did a beautiful job. Mr. Dragani explained to me, because I said, why it was supposed to be more of a sealed concrete. And they said there are gaps in the stone. I was concerned, but he said there was some sort of plastic lining or something that's put in there. I hope that lining lasts my lifetime. But I believe it, he's the civil engineer and he approved it. My concern connects to Mr. Boyven, I'm sorry. So when we were discussing the plans back in the spring of 2024 and the remediation with the tanks and the pipes going along the stone wall and then going out back, that big pipe you see sticking out there, that ends right abutting my backyard in the grassy area. And you would specifically, Mr. Boyven, ask the question, and it's on April 25th minutes. That pipe is supposed to extend another 30 feet out, going toward the middle of the yard and toward the wetlands. It was supposed to carry the water way out, so it's not right there in the backyard. Mr. Dragani told me that obviously he can't be on the site all the time, so Mr. Bonato was forwarding pictures of every step of the project, which you should have before any compliance is issued. I asked Mr. Dragani, I showed him this picture, and he had no recollection. I said, was there an extension put on that pipe to bring it out the 30 feet that you specifically asked about toward the wetlands to take it away from my property and whatever else? Because everything's graded way up on that property now. Mr. Dragani had no recollection of seeing a picture showing an extension put on that pipe. My concern was that the loom was going down and then the sod. So Mr. Dragani, I'm sure can hear me. Does he have pictures? Did he forward pictures that the extension was put on? Is that pipe, does he have pictures to show you that that pipe goes out 30 feet as it was supposed to according to the certified plans?
If there is a stamped and certified as-built plan, then the engineer has attested that it's done according to the plan.
Right, but he told me he had no recollection of pictures. It says you're supposed to submit pictures before and after, and he said that the pictures were being submitted by Mr. Bonato, the landscape architect, all along. The pipe was supposed to go 30 feet. It stopped there. I showed him the picture of it, expressed my concerns. He said he had no recollection of any picture where it's supposed to go out 30 feet. Where's the picture to show it? All I need to know is, I just am curious, was the pipe extended 30 feet? That's a big part of the project. And you spoke to it at that meeting last spring, that it should be extended 30 feet out. I see no signs of it with what I'm looking at.
So, Mr. Dragani, you have no recollection that that was supposed to be the case?
So yeah, so John did bring this to my attention. I did coordinate with the contractor. I did get pictures of that. I'd be happy to share them. When I did my site visit as well, I did note the pipe as shown on the plan that also has a grate on it at the very end. It's right at the rear of the fence. but I'd certainly be happy to share those. And sorry, John, for not getting back to you on that. I know you did ask the questions. I apologize for that.
I appreciate that, Dan. But per our conversation and last spring with Mr. Boivin, that pipe was supposed to continue on for 30 more feet. Was it extended?
Well, either, it's either, as Bill said, it's either on the plan, and that it was either done or not done, and/or it did not make it onto the plan, even though it was agreed to, and then the minutes of the meeting would reflect that, okay? And we can look at that.
Okay.
So, but I mean, but if, but,
On the as-built plan, right?
What's
It's on the
that?
plan.
So
On the as-built plan.
yeah, so the
I
pipe
have-
that
I have seen
the picture is
pipe.
so it
go ahead,
is,
Eileen, I'm sorry.
you have,
Sorry, Dan,
Eileen, could you-
I've seen the exit of the pipe behind the fence, going into the
Yeah.
wetland, towards the wetland.
Right, it ends right at the fence on the grass area, and it was supposed to extend 30 feet
your
out.
position is it should be 30 more feet.
That is not just mine, it's what we discussed, and Mr. Bovine specifically asked the question, it will extend 30 feet. It's all on the video.
I'm wondering, maybe we should take a vote on this, and then if you have further things, you could email either of us.
Right, that's probably good. All right, so we're going to have to, we're not going to, we can't banter about this in the abstract, okay? We'll have to go back and the office will take a position on it, and Mr. Dragani.
No, I appreciate
And
that.
then we'll just go from there.
Yeah, I'm not bantering it, I'm basically saying, and I hear what you're saying, and I agree 110% about a partial certificate of compliance. It's not my concern that he's selling his house at this moment, but considering the track record of what's happened with this property. But I just want to make sure it's done correctly before any compliance is issued, certificate. I'm absolutely in shock if those are all
We
seedlings.
will have to make a determination, yes,
I have
Sarah.
a comment to add about the trees. I am very disappointed to hear that the trees are that small. It's just not that hard to get a 6-foot white oak. I got one last March, $150 online. Piece of cake.
Thank you. If you go back and look at the minutes of the meeting, everybody spoke, and the lady who was there with Mr. Gall spoke about shrubs 2 to 3 feet everywhere. Was it 7 trees? Were going to be like 7 or 8 feet. You spoke to willows. They couldn't find willows, other options. There's nothing there. And seeds is not acceptable. Absolutely not acceptable. It looks like flat ground. There's nothing.
All right, we'll look at it.
The issue was that he purchased the plants in the fall, and by that time, most of the plants are sold. Most bigger plants are
Maybe you
sold.
could get them now.
Come back in the spring. and
As
get
I
some-
understood, they were going to make it up with
You
more
were
plants.
you were calling for him to plant as soon as possible. Where are the trees? Where are the trees? He tried to get trees in.
No, I'm saying that this decision was made in April of 2024. What happened in the spring, summer, and fall of 2024? That's trying to get them in?
They hadn't even cleared back there yet.
It was all cleared out back there. They had 6 months to get them. I even called Mr. Cohen and said, where are the trees? Because nothing's going in and the planting season's over. And that video, it was very clear, 2 and 3 foot shrubs, 7 trees will be 7 or 8 feet. That's what I expect to see because it is flooding my backyard. How many pumps do you have in your house? 3 pumps. The 2 properties behind him, and one of them couldn't be here tonight, have pumps. And the wetlands are getting worse because of 2 properties, thanks to Mr. Gall. All the trees have been removed, and this just keeps continuing on and on. And there is no way that seedlings are going to cut it for compliance.
All right, we'll look at this issue. This is not the time for that. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. And could I have a motion to indicate a negative decision on issuing a partial certificate of compliance for 12 Sarah Street?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? That was 500. All right, so that's the story. Have a good evening, folks.
And then it would be 0.
I understand. Thank you so much.
Yep.
You can write that down if you want.
This is a perfect example of why we have public hearings. Everybody can come and talk.
All right. Okay, so now we are on a request for certificate, 59 to 61 Middlesex Turnpike, Nuria Energy. Are they here? Someone here for that?
Yes. I'm Andrew Platt with Bowler Engineering, here tonight on behalf of Nuria Energy. Yeah, we're going to make, I'd like to make 2 requests tonight. One is for approval of magnesium chloride as a de-icing agent, and the second is for a certificate of compliance. So the site was built per the plans. There were some minor modifications that as a result of adding some electric car charging stations. Those were approved by a minor modification by the commission, I think it was last spring. And other than that, I mean, it was pretty much, like I said, built per the plans. We went out to the site last Friday just to count the trees, because I know that was a big issue for the commission. We verified that actually a few more shrubs and trees than were approved were planted. They're all in the approved spaces or locations. And I think if you had a chance to look at our letter that was sent in with the request, that's pretty much summarizes everything. So I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
All right, good, thank you. Eileen, status of the site?
Well, just to remind everybody, this was, they tore down two structures at I think it was two parcels, I guess, because it was 59 to 61, and then they rebuilt a combined gas station, convenience store, obviously with gas pumps out there as well, and landscaping. As Andy was describing, they did come back for a minor engineering change. There was some changes to, there were, what do you call them? Charging stations, which I actually don't think came through you, because I think they were pretty minor. It may have gone through the planning board. And then there was the issue of where they had inadvertently built the curbing, so that there was actually going to be a little bit more impervious, but we dealt with all that. Let me see, what else? Work was in the inner and outer riverfront area and the buffer to BVW. Everything was definitely done as designed. We talked about snow storage so far. In some pictures that I sent out to you earlier this week, they are definitely storing snow along the side at the moment where the chargers are. And I made a point of sort of giving you some comparison pictures so you can see that there's where the snow is going. It's either plantings or just gravel. So it's a reasonably good spot for them. They do have their no snow storage. We should have them do that. No storage signs along the fence where at the top of the bank. There is one. Do you mind just moving on to the one where a couple of things to mention? One is that cigarette thing is just needs to be moved, Andy. It needs to be behind the fenced area, just so nobody can knock it down the bank. And the other thing was, in this picture here, they had asked, and I gave administrative approval, that this pathway, which is being used by staff, it was just dirt and it was starting to wear off, and they asked if they could put gravel on there to kind of make it a bit more secure. So I said that they could do that without coming to you guys, just to make it, I felt like it was really actually an improvement. All the landscaping has come along pretty well. They have plenty of knotweed on the bank, keeping things stable. Is there anything else in my notes? I have no issue with the suggestion of magnesium chloride. It's probably about the best option that they can use. And we had required that the O&M plan be recorded, but as other people have found, they've had trouble recording the O&M plan. So we've agreed that it can be recorded with the certificate of compliance, and I'm fine with that. I feel like there was one more thing.
Is there anything you're asking them to do at all?
Oh, I know what it was about the O&M. We had asked for them to change the O&M plan so that they would sweep 4 times a year. They have actually included the contract, the proposed contract with the stormwater management people.
For sweep.
Sweeping is happening twice a year, but it's vacuum sweeping, which, again, that's pretty good. And I'm sure they can always sweep with the brush.
So you asking them to do anything else at the site at the moment?
Am I asking? No, I'm happy that this
Okay.
has achieved compliance, and I would also be happy with giving them back the full bond.
All right. Okay, anybody else have any contributions here on this one?
Just one comment. You mentioned magnesium fluoride. What's that?
Oh, they, maybe Andy can say some more, but they requested, we had said no snow, no salt, because it's so close to the river, and it's a salt alternative.
Oh, it's an ice melt? I'm not familiar with it. Okay, magnesium. Okay.
Andy, do you want to tell us any more about the magnesium?
Well, I was hoping this wouldn't come up because I'm really not an expert on this. All I can tell you is that it's non-toxic, it's non-hazardous, and it's just some kind of chemical that, it's an alternative to salt, basically.
And it's probably more expensive.
Most likely.
It might be, but they included the, they don't call them MSDS anymore, that material sheets, and it is less toxic than
Yes, it is.
most things.
Okay.
All right, okay, so if there's nothing further, could I have a motion to issue a certificate of compliance for the project at C961 Middlesex Turnpike to Noria Energy, DEP file number 122-681?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? 500. Next bond, how much is the bond?
20,000.
20,000. Okay, could I have a motion for full release of the bond of 20,000 for 5961 Middlesex Turnpike, Noria Energy, for DEP file number 122-681, which is a $20,000 release? Second?
Second.
All in favor? 500. Is there anything else needed on this?
No, I think that was it.
That was it. Okay, sir, I think you're all set.
Very challenging.
Okay, thank you very much.
It was a very challenging site. You did a good job.
Yeah, nice job on the site.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Yeah, Dixon did a great job. They're a great contractor. So, yep, thank you.
All right, okay, thank you. Next, we're going to move to item 7, notices given. The Town of Burlington Conservation Commission will hold a public meeting, during which time a public hearing to take all information related to a request for an amendment to an order of conditions, which is a DEP file number 122-653, issued to Nordblum Development Company for proposed changes to the layout approved for this project to occur at, it says 0 Middlesex Turnpike, even though the agenda says 24th Ave.
Do you want me to explain, or do you want Joe to explain?
He can, I'll finish reading it, then he can
Okay.
I guess. The proposed work would be within the 100-foot buffer zone to bordering vegetative wetlands and bordering land subject to flooding pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, which is the Wetlands Protection Act, and Burlington Bylaw, Article 14. The commission will review all information relative to the application and thereafter may issue an order of conditions and a Burlington Wetlands permit. Okay, the application may be viewed on the Burlington Conservation Commission website and on the appropriate link. All right, so state your name for the record, and you have the floor.
Thank you. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Great. Yeah, so good evening, Chairman Cohen and members of the commission. My name is Joe White. I'm an engineer with BSC Group. Joining me tonight, we have Paul Martin, who's a senior project manager with our ecology team, and Lindsay Carl, who's also with our ecology team. And Crosby Nordblum is also here representing Nordblum if there's any questions directly for the applicant. Eileen, am I able to share my screen?
Yes, you can. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen here. Can everybody see this aerial image here?
Yep.
Yes.
Great. So yeah, this site here is on the corner of Middlesex Turnpike and 4th Ave. And just to address your question about 4th Ave versus 0 Middlesex Turnpike, the project was originally permitted. This is the Lifetime Living apartment building that was recently completed construction in the last year. And this entire site, this entire property was 24th Ave when it was originally permitted with a notice of intent, an order of conditions that was issued. And since then, this corner piece here was broken off and given a new address. So the order of conditions included development of this entire piece, and we're looking to change, make some changes to what was approved for this corner of the site here. So this is what it currently looks like today. And I'm just going to skip here to the next slide. So this is the approved plan for the site. This is the residential building that's been constructed. This is the portion here that's now known as 0 Middlesex Turnpike. And this is what was originally approved as part of the original order of conditions. I've kind of highlighted the resource areas that are on the site and nearby to the site here. So you have 4th Ave and Middlesex Turnpike here. The site does lie within the 100-foot buffer to a wetland that's across from Middlesex Turnpike here. This red line shows where that buffer line extends to the 100-foot. Also, the green shading here is part of the 100-year floodplain. So everything shown here in green all the way up the site is part of the 100-year floodplain. So when this was originally permitted, the flood storage for this entire site was constructed, has been constructed already in the parking garage, mostly in the parking garage of the residential building. So there's flood vents in the side that allow, if there was any flooding, water to basically partially fill the lower level of this parking garage. And so that was already accounted for in the design of this portion of the site. So what the changes we're proposing here, if I just skip to the next slide. So we're changing the shape of the building, slightly reducing the footprint, and then this parking area was originally approved. We're looking to add some parking over here. In addition, a dumpster pad here. This is going to be a fast food kind of takeout style restaurant with seating outdoor and indoor here. We did show, I don't know if anyone did pick up on this, but we're showing two limits of floodplain here. So we talked about this with Eileen a couple of months ago when we were first looking at this project. The project was originally permitted based on the 2010, which is the flood maps that are in effect today. Since then, FEMA's released some preliminary floodplain maps that we're thinking will probably go into effect sometime in 2025. And my understanding is that DEP for new projects has given the go-ahead for commissions to evaluate these based on the new mapping. So we're showing the floodplain line here based on the new mapping as well, with the understanding that we're still going to use the 2010 mapping because this technically isn't a new project. It's changes to an existing project. And in this case, which doesn't always happen, the changes will actually benefit the site. So the floodplain will be, encroaching less onto the property once those changes go into effect. But the flood storage that was already constructed out here was based on the old mapping, so there's no additional flood storage that's required with the changes we're proposing here. Stormwater, this is the stormwater system that was constructed as part of the residential project here. This was designed to accommodate the development here as well, and the pipe was actually installed up to about here already and just capped off. So we'll be tying into that. It's a subsurface Cultec system, so we're just adding a catch basin and a water quality unit for treatment from the parking lot. And there's already an existing catch basin down in this corner to serve the majority of this parking lot over here. That's my summary of the project here. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Sure, thank you for the comments. Eileen,
You're welcome.
do you have any issues with this being an amendment?
I don't, as Joe, I think Joe did actually a really good job of explaining what ended up being a little bit complicated. I did have him do an amendment because there were changes to the overall site that I felt were a change in scope, because what they were saying before was, I think, landscape or ancillary retail building area is now distinctly parking lot. So I just wanted to make sure that they were capturing all this, any stormwater changes. Plus, there was the complication of, even though we're now using the new FEMA maps, this was permitted under the old FEMA maps, so we really kind of have to also take that into account and do an amendment based on that. So I'm happy with what they submitted, with the fact that the stormwater chambers and the additions of, there's a manhole and a catch basin, right? With a water quality unit, Joe?
Correct, yeah, one catch basin will be added here, which will take water from this entire parking lot and the patio area. which ties into a water quality unit, and then it goes into the detention area over here.
So I'm personally satisfied that this addresses the additional impervious area and additional parking specifically. And I did draft an amendment with, where I described a lot of this in words because I wanted to be sure it was really clear, but in part because, and I'm afraid I didn't share it with you guys, but I did share it with Joe just for his feedback, because this has the added complication of this. There were all these address changes. We actually permitted it as 174 Middlesex Turnpike, then the main address changed to 24th Ave. They submitted this application under 0 Middlesex Turnpike, but that's not going to be the final address for it. So I didn't want to call this 0 Middlesex Turnpike. So I just wanted to kind of capture some of this stuff in words and make sure it was reasonably clear going forward. I'd be happy to share that if you guys are willing to.
Regardless of what address it has, I think we know the area.
You know the area, but you know, what if somebody's looking at this in 5 or 10 years' time? I wanted to make sure it was.
That's right. And we're all long gone by then. Okay.
We did the parcel, well, maybe.
All right. So let me, Sadie, you still with us?
Yeah, I'm still here.
All right. I should have called on you 1 or 2 times earlier. I completely forgot because the screen doesn't show the box. On the screen here, it doesn't show the box. And I'm sorry, I completely forgot. So,
That's partly our fault. We switched it so that we were only seeing one person rather than 3, or several.
yeah, normally it shows the boxes and I can see who's online. So Sadie, do you have any comments on this? This is for an amendment to the order of conditions right there in front of where Lifetime Fitness is and the Lifetime building is.
I don't have any questions or comments right now.
That's fine. I just wanted to at least ask, because I didn't want to forget this time. Kent?
I appreciate it.
Any comments?
Sarah, anything on this?
Just a question, is this gonna have a drive-through feature? It's a fast food restaurant, you said, will there be a drive-through too?
No drive-through associated with this.
I don't know what kind of a question this is, but is it like a McDonald's type
I
of
was just going to
place
say.
or higher-end fast food?
The obvious question.
I mean, are we talking a McDo right there? I'm not.
It's not at McDonald's. I don't know if you're familiar with Cracked Kitchen.
No.
Crack what?
They do, I believe it's mainly breakfast sandwiches and that type of thing. I don't know, Crosby, can you shed any more light on that, exactly what they offer?
I think you have to try it to experience it, but I would say it's a higher quality breakfast, lunch, grab and go, but it's not McDonald's. You know, they get all their eggs are from Vital Farms, so they're very ingredient focused.
What was the name of it that you just mentioned? Kraft?
Kraft, not.
Cracked Kitchen, so crack as in crack an egg with a apostrophe D.
No, I've got their menu.
It is cracked, okay. I thought you were talking about a drug, crack.
Through crack dispensary.
We wouldn't bring that to the Conservation Commission.
So
All
the
right.
fact that this is currently a nice grassy green sward, that's already a foregone conclusion that it will now become impervious, right? There's no going back on that, so I shouldn't even mention it, but I'm mentioning it. That's the only thing.
Yeah, so there was already a building that was approved to go there. We're just changing, I guess, what that building and patio looks like. There is going to be, we have a full planting plan that's included in the site plan. So there's a large number of, plantings and landscaping and an outdoor patio area that's going along with this. So, we've seen some renderings. I think it's gonna look pretty nice, I think, so.
Okay, I just like the grass that's there now. I'm partial to open space, but that's all I have to add.
Yeah.
All right, Rob, anything?
I guess, not exact specific, but the permit, there was a permit extension that went into effect
There was
in
a permit
November?
extension,
Like
yes.
another couple years, but then because there's a couple changes.
Oh, sorry,
from
no, you mean the
previous-
Permit Extension Act?
Yeah.
Okay, they had actually extended their permit last spring-ish. I don't remember exactly the month, a little under a year ago. So they had already extended it, then the Permit Extension Act went into place, so they didn't have to. So
Okay.
this is an amendment of an extended permit, yes.
Okay.
I know, there was a lot of complications in this.
All right, Bill, anything on this?
No, but I did just look it up, and it's CRACK apostrophe D.
Apostrophe D,
Kitchen.
okay.
Crack.
Well, I'm
All
looking
right.
forward to this.
A couple of questions for you, Eileen, or Lucy. Is there any reason to believe that the existing order of conditions is not sufficiently protective with the changes proposed?
Well, as I said, I did draft something with some words, like, quite a lot of words.
Quite a lot of
Just to just to capture it, and maybe I went a little bit too far, and Joe had some concerns about what I wrote, and I think he was sort of matching my energy. I think your concern, Joe, about the SWIP is a little bit unnecessary, but I'm happy to address it as well. So how about, would it be okay if I just share the draft and we can see whether you're okay with this?
Are we going to approve it? Should we just make an exception and approve it tonight?
Well, a few times we have done amendments in the same evening, and since this, I felt this was reasonably straightforward, and when I started drafting something, I felt it was, I mean, we don't have to, if you're not.
I'm okay with it. I didn't hear any objection.
We don't have to wait for a DEP
Well,
number, because this is an amendment to an existing.
And do we need additional conditions because of the nature of the amendment?
Not really.
Okay, I just wanted to check on that. Okay.
Joe, I'm going to share now so I'm going to probably override your sharing. Can you,
Yeah, that's fine. Let's stop here for you.
oh, I think I probably had.
Dan Trajani did that to me earlier, overrode my sharing. I was impressed.
That's a bit shocking. Okay, as I said.
And Eileen, just to clarify, my comment on the SWIP, all I'm saying there is that I think the other conditions kind of, in practicality, cover what would be covered with a SWIP.
I agree.
We're submitting an erosion control plan. Yeah, go ahead.
And I think that since this parcel is way less than an acre, it's only about half an acre, we weren't going to expect a SWIP
Right.
anyway. We do understand that.
Okay.
But I did add something
Yep.
in if we want to. So, okay, I put in all the usual stuff, and then proposed amendment is for changes to the scope and layout of this phase of the project as permitted under the original order of conditions and bylaw decision. The changes are bulleted. Refining the design to include 2 parking areas and an outdoor plaza with an increase of 1,780 square feet of impervious surface. Previous approval was for landscape or ancillary retail building area. Reducing the footprint of the commercial building from 3,500 square feet to 2,500 square feet, installing a new manhole, a new catch basin with water quality unit, and relocating or replacing 4 trees. Those are the main gist of the changes. The 4th Avenue residential and commercial developments across parcels 3911 and 3911-1 were evaluated and permitted as a single development project under an order of conditions issued in 2021. The Coltex subsurface detention system was designed to manage stormwater runoff from both parcels and has already been constructed. The HydroCAD model and hydrologic calculations were updated by Joe to account for the increase in impervious surface and demonstrate that the peak flow rates from the site will still be decreased from the pre-development conditions and the capacity of the Coltex system will not be exceeded. Similarly, there was no change to compliance with stormwater standards 1 and 3 through 10. The work would be in buffer to BVW, and when originally permitted within bordering land subject to flooding under the flood rate insurance map from 2010, the preliminary maps, which become effective in July 25, shows a reduced area of BLSF within the project area. Went through the filing history, and then the decision would be to amend the order of conditions issued for DEP file number 122-5653 at 24th Ave, and specifically parcel 3111-1, subject to the terms of the original order of conditions and as amended by the following. And then I said all conditions from the original order of conditions not modified herein remain in effect. The amended conditions, well, might be 2 now because I added one for Joe, was all of the new plans were listed. And then since Joe was concerned about the SWIP thing and just making sure it's 100% clear, I did, the yellow bit is, I reproduced that condition which asked for the SWIP, and I just said, like indented, this condition was satisfied for the earlier phase of this project and is not applicable to this parcel. Does that work for you, Joe, and does that work for the commission?
that makes sense to us.
I honestly don't think it was necessary, but I was being
I was just
very-
just about to say
I was
that.
being very prescriptive, and Joe was matching that energy. So,
All right, that's what happens when you have an energy drink, huh? Okay, all right,
so maybe it's
So-
not necessary.
that's fine. Well, it sounds like it doesn't do any harm,
It doesn't do any harm,
but you wanted to mention it, okay.
yeah.
All right, does anyone have any further comment or objection to moving ahead with this? All right.
Okay.
So then could I have a motion to close the hearing for the amendment to DEP file number 122-653?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor? That's 500. All right, could I have a motion to issue an amendment to the order of conditions under Burlington Bylaw Article 14 in the State Wetlands Protection Act for the project located at 0 Middlesex Turnpike, formerly known as 174 Middlesex Turnpike, and also known as 24th Ave. Is there a motion for an amendment to the existing order of conditions 122-653?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? That was 500. All right, do we need any change to the bond?
No.
No,
I'm going to say no, because I didn't even check the bond, so, yeah, we're good.
we're good. But there's no reason to believe that the scope of the project has increased. If anything, it's going the other direction.
The scope of the project, this is just the second phase. So we were talking about phase projects earlier. This is one of those much bigger commercial sort of projects where phasing is more typical. I feel like we accounted for that when we issued the project and
Okay.
the bond request in the first place.
All right, okay. All right, so, sir, I think you're all set on this one.
Great, thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
All right, you too. Thank you for your patience.
Thanks, Joe.
All right,
Can I just explain, when I passed this, we did draft this, but we hadn't made some fixes to the front page, which we will, because we're still trying to figure out the whole, which parcel to actually reference. So just don't worry about that. You're only signing
the blank check.
the blank check, yeah, exactly.
Got it.
You're just signing the quote to say what we said is basically what, okay?
All right.
We all okay with that? And don't worry about those minor things at the very front?
Yep.
Those pesky names.
Yeah, those names, the names of like, actual addresses.
All right, so item number 8 and 9, I'd like to take as one. It is the continued public hearing for the proposed revisions to the stormwater and erosion and sedimentation bylaw, and continued public hearing for the proposed stormwater bylaw regulations. All right, so perhaps in case people are just tuning in to this for the first time, I'll just explain very briefly what we're doing here. We have a stormwater bylaw that was written many years ago and has been updated and so forth, and it was approved by town meeting and it's been in force. In that bylaw, we have not only the administrative and the authority and the purpose and all the stuff that goes in a bylaw, but we put in all the technical and administrative things to request a permit, to what it has to contain, the technical details of some of those items and so forth. And so every time that there is a change, a minor change or something prescribed by a DEP or whatever the case is, then we have to obviously go to town meeting for that change. It's not a very efficient process. It certainly can be done. So what we're doing is, we're doing what almost every other community has done with this kind of a situation. They have separated out a bylaw which has, the purpose, the applicability, and also has the thresholds that trigger the bylaw, okay? And then what we have is the things which, so the application of the bylaw stays right within the control of town meeting, and it stays also within the bylaw. It can only be changed by town meeting. okay? And then the technical details and the administrative details of actually applying for a permit with a long list of things that are included in there have all been moved into regulations. Almost all communities in the Commonwealth do it this way, and so we're just sort of bringing it up to speed to the same way because it's much more efficient. All right? We have had a subcommittee taking a look at the bylaw and regulations. The subcommittee has consisted of myself, Bill Boyven, Lucy Hanson, Eileen Coleman, and it also included 2 representatives from the development community who gave us very good input, Phyllis Etzel and Susan Cadillac, and they are both into development and construction and so forth. And what we did is we met multiple times, and we met to hammer out a document. We now have a draft final document of the bylaw, which has gone on for town council review, I believe. Correct me if any of this is wrong. And we have a set of regulations which we will adopt here, that is our final draft, close to our final draft, that we will be adopting here under, I guess, the hearing. Probably the same hearing that's open now, correct? We'll leave it open?
Yes, I would like to leave the hearing open for the regulations, but ideally close the one for the bylaw, and if we can vote, that would be great.
Right,
Yeah.
right, okay. So that's the process we have undergone, and there is 2 things. One is there is, in the regulations, there is a commitment that nothing in the regulations, which is a lot of technical detail, by the way, will be changed until it is reviewed by that subcommittee ahead of time. And we have 3 people on the outside and a number of conservation commissioners who want to participate will be reviewing these changes, and before it ever gets to the point of a hearing in front of this whole commission. And the second thing is, it's almost hard to believe, but there was an enormous amount of discussion about trees, okay? And part of it, I think, was, at least on my part, was a tendency to want to preserve and protect and have much of a tree canopy as possible, but it's not really the purpose of the stormwater bylaw to protect trees. That's a separate issue. So a lot of the discussion was what should, and a lot of it was what should not be in the bylaw about trees, which is most of it. So that's where we are. We finally arrived at what I think was a very reasonable approach to what we're doing. So the drafts that are circulating, I guess Eileen sent out the drafts. They are considered like final for the bylaw, as far as we know, and final for the regulations, I believe.
Final for the regulations to date.
To date.
Unless anybody has any major, I mean, if anybody has any concerns about them, we could keep considering that.
Now, what happens if the town meeting bylaw review committee says, I want a period here, I want an exclamation point here, I
I
have
mean, for the bylaw?
Yeah. What, you have to open the hearing again?
Oh. I would think, well, what we could try, if you guys are open to it, is just make a motion that, we accept it pending some sort of minor review, some wording that'll work to accept things like, grammatical errors or something. Otherwise, we can wait if you'd like.
Or I think we can we could certainly have a motion that says that we delegate the authority to make minor edits to you and at your discretion, and if there's anything significant, we will have to reopen.
And I would have to come back to you, yeah.
Come back and reopen a hearing.
Things substantive.
How does that sound? All right, so that's kind of what all this is about, if anybody was interested in. So first, let me go to Eileen or Lucy. Is there anything you want to say, or did I already talk more than enough on it?
No, I think that was good. I think it was actually it was good working with John Keeley and,
Oh, John Keeley was in on that committee as well, yes.
didn't mention John.
I didn't mention
He
John.
started the whole
yes.
thing. He started the initial drafts.
Yeah, he's the one who started it all, yes.
He's gonna feel forgotten.
Wait till I tell him that you.
What's public record now?
I think it was good working with John and Phyllis and Susan. You know, it made for a good process, you know, getting some outside feedback, especially from people who actually do deal with the bylaw on a regular basis and deal with actually building.
It can be very tedious work to deal with this stuff. 'Cause
Oh, goodness, yes.
I mean, you get into some real minor details.
But I don't have anything to add. I think we didn't actually make any dramatic changes since the last time we were proposing to put it into town meeting. I just think that we made some tweaks and we came to an agreement, particularly about trees and about some process.
Right.
Process points.
Right. All right. Sadie, do you have anything on this one? This is about the bylaw and the regulations.
I don't have any questions right now.
All right, that's fine. How about the rest of the commission? Anybody else want to make a comment?
I'd just like to make one comment. You know, we mentioned that trees were part of the discussion, and there is some very small mention of trees in the proposed bylaws and regulations. But they would only apply in cases where an application for a stormwater permit is received. It's not going to affect anybody's lot where they have trees and they don't have any applications. You can still do whatever you want with your trees. Something like that would require a separate tree bylaw, which we don't have, and at some point, hopefully, we'll work towards something like that. But the small amount of tree support that we have in there is because trees are an important part of stormwater control. And both of the representatives of the development community thought it was good to protect a small amount of trees on each property when possible. So that's why they were included.
Right. Okay, and it's fair to say that, except for the rear zoning setback, it's at the owner's discretion, even though we encourage a one-to-one replacement if they decide to remove trees, but it's at their discretion, is the way it was left.
And it's encouraged and not required.
Right. All right. Anyone else want to talk about stormwater bylaw, stormwater regulations, or trees?
No, I think the one we had tonight was a good example of why trees are important.
Yes. Okay. Anything else? Sarah, Rob, anything? No? All right, so I'd like to, let's try to do this. I'd like to close the hearing on the proposed revisions to the stormwater erosion sedimentation bylaw. Is there a motion to close the hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor? 500. I'd like to have a motion to pass the current version of the stormwater bylaw, the draft final version, that will go to town meeting, recognizing that if any changes occur due to the town meeting review, minor changes, our staff will take care of, and at their discretion, they will bring back to they will recommend opening a hearing if something very significant comes up. Okay, with that recognition, is there a motion to approve the draft final stormwater and erosion and sedimentation bylaw to go to the May town meeting?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Okay. And could I have a motion to continue the public hearing for the proposed stormwater bylaw regulations?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Same vote, 500. All right, we made it to administration. Planning board comments, anyone?
I don't think we have anything, I'm not sure. I think the amendment to the 24th Ave one is going in front of the planning board for something, so I will give them comments for that one. I can't remember if we told you this the last time, but just in case we didn't, we are actually losing our clerk. the recording clerk. Did we
Really?
mention that the last time? Yeah, I think he's just too busy to manage us, and with, he's got actual, other page jobs too. So we're looking for a new recording clerk right now. In fact, we might have another one. We might have a second person. I'll read it properly. I just saw that it was in my email, which would be good.
A second person to take notes, to take the notes?
Yes, a person who's recording clerk for some of the other boards, but let me read it properly before I tell you
Okay.
her name or anything.
All right.
Submitted, if it's okay, I'll also just mention sorry, that was planning board comments. That's as far as you got. Yes.
All right, under other business, I have one thing, but maybe someone else has it.
I got a few items.
Okay, go.
Town meeting was held, and there were a couple of items that came up that directly or indirectly affect the Conservation Commission. The first one was that I did read our message of support for the environmental impact of the mix zoning involving the Burlington Mall and surrounding areas.
Yes.
That was a long discussion, well-received, and actually passed 91 to 14, so it clearly passed by well above the required two-thirds. The other one was the Middle Housing Innovation District, which is basically along Route 3A, and certain properties there have been designated as zoning allowed for a property which would have commercial on the first floor and 2 stories of residential above it on certain lots there, again, at the discretion of the owner if he wanted to build such a thing. And each of those, some of those properties would clearly have conservation concerns because they are near resource areas. So, but each one would be handled individually, as they normally are, if that comes up. That one needed two-thirds, and it was 59 to 28, which squeaked through in the two-thirds approval. So we can build that kind of housing if we want. And the other thing was that it only required a majority, it had a clear majority to pass the new bylaw allowing accessory dwelling units on basically any property in town. If you want to build it, it has to meet the new zoning requirements of the town, which are stricter than those of the state. The state mandated that you'd have at least theirs, and we were a little stricter in ours, some of the setbacks and attachment requirements and stuff like that. And again, anything like that comes forward would require a lot-by-lot application with Concom if it was required. So nothing is bypassing any of the Concom stuff. The other issue I have is, last night there was a high school building public information session at the high school, and one of the items that, of course, that property is heavily involved in stuff that pertains to us with wetlands and flood zones and riverfront areas and everything else. There's several options still on the table, but one that kind of emerged out of the blue last night was to suddenly move the stadium to a practice field, which is already surrounded by wetlands, and people seem to jump all over that as a good suggestion. I don't like it at all. And they would have to then, it's not big enough for a stadium and a track, so the track would go somewhere else on the property, but that would allow the school to be built on the current athletic field, which seems to be what people who are doing the planning really want to see happen.
What do the people in the audience feel? Did you get any sentiment?
They did not match that enthusiasm at all.
They were wildly enthusiastic against it.
Yes.
Nobody
It
wants
was a
that.
weird dynamic where it felt like they were trying to sell us on something.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Yeah, they really, everything they showed seemed to lean towards that, building a new building on the athletic field when nobody wanted it. The abutters clearly don't want an athletic field where the school is. And so that's why suddenly this thing came up that, we could put the athletic field out in the practice field and still build on that athletic field for a new school, and so, I don't know, that came out of the blue. So we'll see what happens with those proposals. Tonight, there was a meeting where they were supposed to eliminate, at least discuss eliminating some of the options. So,
Is that occurring right now?
yeah, they just started at 7 o'clock. That's why these people were, the first item was had to get out. So we'll see what happens with that. But I received calls today from a butter, from a member of the high school building committee, and the people I've talked to seem to feel that this putting a new school on the current athletic field is being pushed down their throat. So we'll see how far it gets. I also got calls today from, regarding the middle school field. And again, people are concerned. And apparently the butters there are not as concerned about, because there already is a field there, and there already is some activity there. So it's not like it's going to be moving something new close to their property. So we'll see what happens with
So what
that.
sort of attitudes were you getting to the middle school when you got the call?
Mostly information requests. Anyone to know what kind of concerns were involved with the conservation and stuff like that. So,
I have to wonder if that's the backstory, that field, expanding the fields at the middle school is to allow the football team to play there while the new school is being built on varsity field. It feels like it's all connected.
the new field being constructed is not a football field.
Now it's soccer and
It's two soccer
Yeah, but
lacrosse
they can play
fields.
on the one in the middle of the track.
And the front one that they play then?
Yeah.
But
push folks
in England,
back.
soccer is called football. So there you go.
Yes. Maybe that would be part of it. I don't know.
I feel like it's all connected.
It is a weird option, though, if you like, not to go down to that rabbit hole, but like when you separate your football from your, it's kind of a
Very odd.
strange.
I get the feeling they just kind of threw that out there to quiet people down, that it wasn't a real good faith effort. I mean, this Long Meadow Brook is right next to the.
There's a lot of- there's-
It's very wet.
Well, there's a lot of
all year
discussion
round.
about if they practice field, like I said, that was the first meeting I actually attended, and there's a lot of discussion around the, like, sound, like the.
Oh,
yeah,
people
yeah.
wanted to know, they
Yeah.
did sound studies and everything else, and they were harshly criticized. And one of the things that came up last night was they sort of implied, the presenters, the architects, sort of implied that the wetland flagging had already been done and approved for the entire property
That was asserted, yes.
when it has not.
That is not true, is it?
I reached out to him today because I was at part of that thing and I saw the same presentation and I said, you're going to have to do more flagging because you didn't actually flag that area there. And he says he misspoke. He realized last night
Misspoke.
that he was sort of thinking back and he thought it was all flagged and it wasn't. So he was going to make that clear at the high school tonight.
Well, somebody made a comment about like
And he
the,
realizes that it's actually not. They would need a little bit more. It's not that they can't, but we're just not sure what the extent is.
somebody made a comment about like they would move the stadium, or not stadium, the school would go where the new field, if they put the school where the current football field is, that if the new football field minus track would go where the practice field would, a woman made an interesting comment about if you walk out there in, it's like wet as.
It's
like-
always.
Yeah, that's why
I mean,
somebody
when
made
your
that.
kids go to throw a shot put, you're like,
Yeah.
squish, squish, squish.
Back in 2013, we approved the construction of that practice field. Conservation did. And we approved 2.5 feet of fill on part of it to level it off the field. We approved filling some wetlands and replicating wetlands elsewhere on the property. So at that point, it was flagged and endorsed and signed off by Conservation. But 10 or 12 years have passed and wetlands can't change, so it would definitely need to be reflagged. Is there a guideline for how long flagging is valid in general, or is it
Three
case by
years.
case?
Well, 3 years is the technical official response, but we were kind of talking about this earlier. It's a bit case by case. And I was saying, if somebody came to us and it had been 4 or 5 years, I don't think we'd necessarily make them reflag after that. But this is 12 years, and you can definitely.
Not only that,
12 years.
the intensity of rainfall has changed over the last 12 years.
Oh, yeah.
And an area that's already kind of mushy and wet,
Right.
it really has to be looked at.
I would think so. I did tell him that.
Yes.
He's aware.
No, it's just interesting that you look at the middle school, you're talking like a $4.5 million, $5 million, and I understand you're going into the, that was my next question about when is the notice intent? Is that next week, like the next meeting?
We actually just received it this afternoon.
Oh, you did? Okay.
I didn't realize it was really imminent because we were trying to have this informal discussion as a way of just making sure that they were
Okay.
very well
Sorry, I missed
informed for the NOI. So
But they did submit it requesting that we take it up at the next meeting. It seemed like that was part of the application when they sent it in.
oh, he said he was going to bring hard copies. Is that them? Did they just leave them with us?
Yes.
Oh, so this is the, so they have officially
The NOI is in.
submitted the notice of intent with us as of there and
Ask and you shall receive.
electronically earlier, which apparently Larry received too, which,
No, I just found it interesting, like I said, I understand this project here at the middle school is basically at the notice intent phase, but there's probably more discussion about conservation. Bill's was a valid point. That thing went over almost 2.5 hours, and that engineer made like one comment about maybe that it was discussed more, but for that project is like there very little was discussed about the conservation impact that was presented. I understand.
you mean in Marshall's, no.
No, sorry, the high school. Like, there was very minimal discussion about
Well, I
like,
think they assumed that it was
Yeah.
all flagged, and therefore the areas they could build was already defined, and this is what we're gonna do then, you know, but that's not the case.
it's not the case.
All right, okay. Sadie? You there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, we apparently have, we submitted to town meeting to officially recognize that we can have associate commissioners.
We did, I have now submitted that, yes.
Apparently, some people in town believe that you are an unofficial associate commissioner. So in order to make it official, we had to submit a change to the bylaw. And we've had previous associate commissioners who are also unofficial, apparently. And then now we are going to make it official by actually putting those words in our wetlands bylaw.
Well, not in the wetlands bylaw, it's in the general bylaw under,
Oh, general bylaw, okay.
under commissions, authorities, or something about authorities and so on
Okay.
and so on. You know, that it describes your terms, so we just added it in there, plus 2 non-voting residents who would also be associate commissioners, just to make it crystal clear, and
So Sadie is relieved that she's going to be official now.
Yes,
I'm sure.
and it will double your pay.
Oh, that's great.
We're also,
Okay, so we, is there anything else?
It looks like we might actually do have a new recording clerk, which is good. Or we will have, once we get all that sorted. There was something else. Oh, just very curiously, since you mentioned doubling the pay, we were in an MSRCP
Oh my God,
thing.
you're gonna tell them that?
There are commissions who get money.
Really?
There are some commissions, no, there was a whole thread this week on a networking thing that we're on, and most towns, the Concom gets nothing, but 1 or 2.
1 or 2 get a lot
Do
of.
they not,
A lot of money.
do they not have staff?
Revere does.
No, because it was the staff who was responding.
It was staff who was responding, that's
Yeah.
true.
And like some
My
people.
heart goes out
now-
to, my heart goes out to commissions that don't have staff.
No, Waltham, they get,
Which one?
they get a stipend, and they've only had staff now for about a year.
Which one's the one that gets $100 per meeting?
That's Waltham, and they
It
only,
is? Okay.
yeah, but you see the one today, that they get, like, they get a lot of money.
Yeah, no, it's all crazy.
If we got paid $100 per meeting,
Yeah.
we could the next day all go to Cracked.
I vote we meet every week.
That would be awesome.
Looks pretty cool.
That's going to be the latest fast food craze, right?
When-
Okay, if there's nothing further, could I have a motion to adjourn this meeting of the Burlington Conservation Commission?
so moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor? 500.